The cameras were rolling, the lights were warm against the textured orange backdrop, and the energy inside the studio felt electric. What the world would later see as a sleek, effortlessly cool Calvin Klein campaign was in reality the result of something far more intense. Because yes, Jungkook was truly throwing himself around. And yes, he was unbelievably dedicated. When the Calvin Klein team envisioned the concept for the new campaign, they didn't just want a model reclining in denim. They wanted movement. They wanted rawness. They wanted a feeling that blurred the line between fashion and performance, and there was only one person who could transform that vision into something unforgettable: Jungkook. From the very first take, it became clear this would not be a passive photo shoot. The set was minimal but bold, burnt orange textures contrasting against classic Calvin Klein denim and crisp white layers. The styling was clean, but the execution required intensity. Instead of simply posing, Jungkook immersed himself in the concept. He didn't just lie back on the set floor, he let his body fall naturally into position. He didn't gently transition between angles, he rolled, shifted, twisted with complete commitment. Behind the polished campaign images, the ones that instantly went viral, was a series of physically demanding movements that required stamina and precision. The creative direction called for a sense of controlled chaos, reminiscent of 90s editorial shoots where energy felt spontaneous and unfiltered. To achieve that authenticity, Jungkook chose not to fake anything. He dropped backward fully onto the cushioned set surface, trusting the momentum. He pivoted sharply from one side to the other, denim brushing against the textured floor. He repeatedly repositioned himself to capture that perfect in-between moment, the second where movement meets stillness. Each motion was deliberate yet looked effortless. Staff members reportedly watched in awe. It wasn't just that he was following instructions, he was elevating them. When the director suggested a subtle shift in body angle, Jungkook expanded on it, adding motion, adjusting timing, experimenting with how the fabric moved with him. He understood that in a Calvin Klein campaign, the clothing isn't static, it breathes with the wearer. The denim itself became part of the performance. As he moved across the set, the jeans creased naturally, the waistband subtly revealed beneath the lifted hem of his shirt. It wasn't staged perfection, it was lived-in realism, and that realism required effort. There were moments when he flung himself sideways to capture the exact frame the team envisioned, one arm extended, torso slightly twisted, gaze steady into the camera. From the outside, it might have looked simple, but repeating that motion multiple times, adjusting speed and intensity with each take, demands physical endurance. He didn't hesitate, he didn't ask for shortcuts. Observers on set noted how Jungkook treated the campaign like a performance stage. He warmed up beforehand, he stretched his shoulders and wrists, he tested the floor texture with his hands before beginning more dynamic movements. This wasn't recklessness, it was preparation. The phrase that quickly circulated among fans, "He was basically throwing himself around," was an exaggeration. In one sequence, he was asked to shift from a reclining position to a sudden upright lean in one fluid motion. Instead of slowly transitioning, he propelled himself upward with force, letting gravity guide the descent back down for the next frame. It created a ripple effect in the fabric, a raw, kinetic energy that photographs alone could barely contain. What makes this moment so powerful isn't just the physicality, it's the mindset behind it. Fashion campaigns, especially for global brands like Calvin Klein, often rely on stillness and precision. But Jungkook injected movement into every corner of the frame. He understood that denim, especially 90s-inspired denim, carries attitude, it carries rebellion, it carries boldness. To embody that, he couldn't remain static. Each time he dropped back against the vibrant orange set, there was intention behind it. Each roll of his shoulders, each subtle arch of his back was designed to communicate confidence. He didn't merely model the clothing, he performed it. The campaign's final images radiate effortless cool. Jungkook reclining in white long sleeves, Calvin Klein waistband peeking above perfectly structured jeans, expression calm yet magnetic. But fans who saw behind-the-scenes glimpses understood that the stillness captured in the photo was born from dynamic movement. He didn't aim for safe poses, he aimed for impact. Between takes, instead of stepping away to rest, he reviewed footage carefully. He studied how the denim folded when he moved quickly versus when he shifted slowly. He adjusted hand placements, ensuring tattoos were visible but not distracting. He balanced sensuality with strength, vulnerability with control. Dedication, in this context, meant surrendering to the concept fully. It meant allowing himself to look messy for a second to achieve the perfect final frame. It meant trusting that physical immersion would translate through the lens. The creative team reportedly praised his instinctive understanding of camera dynamics. When he shifted his torso mid-roll, he angled his jaw subtly toward the light without being told. When he lifted the hem of his shirt slightly during movement, it wasn't random, it was timed perfectly with the shutter click. That level of awareness doesn't happen by accident. It comes from years of performance training, of understanding how every movement reads on screen. Fans reacted instantly when campaign images dropped. Social media flooded with praise not only for the visuals but for his work ethic. Clips of him moving across the set circulated alongside comments like, "He gives everything and he never holds back." The pride was palpable. In an industry where appearances can often overshadow effort, this campaign reminded everyone that dedication is visible. It shows in posture, it shows in energy, it shows in the way someone chooses to fall, roll, rise, and repeat without hesitation. The 90s denim theme required authenticity. That decade was defined by unfiltered expression, by artists who weren't afraid to look raw. Jungkook tapped into that spirit seamlessly. His movements weren't overly polished. They felt organic, even slightly chaotic, but always controlled. Calvin Klein's branding has always celebrated sensual minimalism. This campaign amplified that ethos by adding physical storytelling. The contrast between the soft orange background and the structured denim created visual tension. Jungkook's dynamic movement intensified that contrast. There were moments during the shoot when the set fell silent except for the sound of fabric brushing against the floor. No unnecessary chatter, just focus. He would take a breath, nod slightly, and begin again. What stands out most is that he didn't approach this as just a fashion job, he approached it as art. Even after capturing what seemed like the perfect shot, he often asked to try once more, slightly faster, slightly sharper, slightly more daring. That relentless pursuit of refinement defines true dedication. Industry insiders later described the shoot as one of the most physically engaged fashion campaigns they had witnessed in recent years. Not because of elaborate stunts, but because of genuine commitment to movement. Jungkook's body became an extension of the denim's story. When he stretched across the set, the jeans adapted. When he curled inward briefly before expanding outward again, the fabric responded. It created a visual rhythm that felt alive. The final campaign may look smooth and effortless, but beneath that surface lies repetition, exertion, and a refusal to settle. He could have chosen to pose elegantly and keep movements minimal. Instead, he chose to embody the concept fully, even if that meant literally throwing himself into it. That is what separates a face of a campaign from the force behind it. As the images continue circulating globally, the conversation goes beyond aesthetics. It becomes about work ethic, about passion, about what it means to give yourself completely to a creative vision. Jungkook didn't just wear Calvin Klein denim. He lived it. He moved with it. He collided with it. And in doing so, he transformed a fashion campaign into a testament of dedication. Yes, he was throwing himself around. But more importantly, he was proving that no matter the platform, stage, studio, or global fashion set, his standard remains the same. Total commitment. Unfiltered effort. Relentless dedication. And that is exactly why the moment resonates far beyond a single campaign image.